On today's episode of Real Estate Strategies with Remax Hallmark, Eric, a member of our leadership team, sits down with Peggy Hill to talk about building $1 million business. Peggy is one of the most respected leaders in Canadian real estate today, and her journey is a powerful story of grit, growth, and building one of the top producing teams in the country. In this interview, she shares the challenges she faced starting out, the turning points that helped her scale, and the lessons you can take away to build a business of your own. Let's get right into the conversation with Eric and Peggy.
Thank you everybody for joining. My name is Eric, and I'm going to be facilitating this very exciting conversation. I'm very excited to do it. And before we actually get started, I just want to quickly go through just a couple of housekeeping items. So we're here with Peggy Hill. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you can see here we're talking about her growth and her success in real estate, where she came from and where she is now. But just some Zoom etiquette. Let's keep the cameras on if we can. I think it just shows general respect for everybody. Just knows that you're here and paying attention. The wonderful and talented David Brown is going to be in the background helping me out here. And, we'll get to as many questions as we can. But that being said, I bet you we'll answer a whole bunch of them in Peggy and I's conversation.
Hi, everyone.
There we go. Everybody's good. Okay, cool. Some Zoom tips. Set it to gallery view. That's what the recommendation here is here. That's also why I've got David in the background as a co-host here, because as much as I love having conversations with people, I'm not a Zoom pro. So I'm just going to stick to that side of things. And I think Jonder's here as well. If we're screwing anything up, let Dave know and we'll blame it on him. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. Okay, listen, I want to, first of all, thank everybody for joining today. I'm really excited for this, as I said before. And a very special thank you to Peggy for giving us her time, her knowledge, and her experience in a time that's very busy for a lot of us, but certainly very busy for her. We're just getting into this fall market, so things are crazy. So Peggy, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Awesome. For those that don't know who Peggy Hill is, first of all, you definitely don't live in Barrie or in the Simcoe region. Bottom line is Peggy has a incredible resume in terms of her real estate career. She's a wonderful person. She's the number one, her team is the number one producing team in Remax Hallmark, and top something in Canada. Peggy, help me out with this. Where are you guys at?
First quarter, we were number one. Second quarter, I believe we're like 3, but third quarter's coming, guys. Third quarter's coming.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So yeah, I mean, bottom line is she's an incredibly well-established realtor and team leader. And what I want to go through today is sort of where she started. Yeah, bottom line is, Peggy's, listen, she has an amazing high-producing team right now, but everybody starts from somewhere. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. So Peggy, can you share your general story about your experience getting into real estate and kind of where you started with this business?
Of course. And I just want to start off by saying thank you. I come from a place of contribution. I'm not here to brag about myself. I'm not here to brag about my deals. I'm just here to help if anybody wants the vision as to how I got to where I am. And there's more ways to get there than the road I took, but this is the only road I know. So that's what I'm here sharing. I don't want you to think that, oh, it's easy for her to say she has all this money. I didn't have any money. Easy for her to say she has all these contacts. People know her. I didn't know people. I did know people in a different environment. When I had the restaurant, I was their waitress. And believe it or not, when you become a realtor, people don't often think to call their waitress first. Maybe for a recommendation, but certainly not to be their realtor. So I had to fight an uphill fight. I think it's actually worse when you know a lot of people just through restaurants and stuff like that, because you have to somehow change their perception of you in their head. So when you come on clean state, it's not as difficult. And the other thing that I think is much easier these days is social media. We never had any free social media. Any advertising I ever did was paid. by check. And it was not free. There was no free. In fact, I joined Home Life back in 2003 because he offered to pay $2,000 for me to pay for my board dues. And I did not have that $2,000. So to me, it was a lifeline. And he also offered to pay for the top header of the paper, you know, those community papers that we all get. So he offered to pay for the header on that. And I thought, oh my God, like this is great because no one else offered to do that for me. So he had me at hello. So that is how I picked my first brokerage. And from there, I went to Prudential because he had a lot of technology. I had a lot of respect for Terry Leclerc back in the day. He was a mover and a shaker. However, you know how you get somewhere and you see behind the curtain and then you're like, so I saw behind the curtain and I moved on. Opened my own brokerage, Peggy Hill and Associates, and I was there for 5-ish years. But the problem is I kept having people wanting to join me and not necessarily be my team, but they want to be in my brokerage, and the brokerage carried my name because that's all RICO would allow, just so we understand ourselves. If I were opening a brokerage right now, the last thing I would call it is my stupid name, because it's so hard when something is named after you. Like, you know, try going to Costco when you're me. Try anything. Try having a couple of extra drinks when you go out at night. You can't. You've got to wash your T's and your I's and make sure everything's crossed and dotted. And it's not easy to be in the public eye. I know people say it, but I never thought I'd live it, and yet here I am. So it wasn't an easy journey. I learned a lot of things. I think my very biggest regret was that I didn't have a CRM from the get-go. So let me finish telling you where I went. So I went to Peggy Hill and Associates. I was there for 5 years, and Keller Williams approached me and offered me 25% of their brokerage just to be affiliated with me, because they obviously had no name up here and they figured that that was worth their while. So, you know, I'm just human. That was a bit of an ego boost. And that is not why I went there. I went there because it was all win-win, and they have all these things, and you know, they're always about the client, and I bought into a story, and then I saw behind that curtain, and then I was out. So 6 years later, I found my agents were having to explain as to who Keller Williams is, and so I had enough. And then I thought, the one place I've always wanted to be was Remax, because they have the same philosophies as me. I'm a big marketer. They're big marketers. So that is where I want to be. So I contacted Hallmark, and that's how I ended up here today. Like I tell my husband, not my first, but absolutely my last. Same with Remax. Not my first, but my last.
There you go.
So
well, it's been amazing having you a part of this company, and and I think the cool thing has been sort of that mutually beneficial experience that you've kind of had with Hallmark. Is that a fair assessment?
They have the same kind of like understanding that I do. Like I want to be on the top end of things. I want to know when something's new is coming out. I want to bring it to my agents, and in that respect, I find Hallmark very much the same. Not all brokerages are built equal. Not all Remaxes are built equal. But I do love my Hallmark.
Okay, I love seeing that sort of trajectory to how you got to Hallmark. Let's take it back a little bit. You know, what were some of the biggest challenges? You mentioned some of them, but what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in the very early part of your career, you know, before you had a team?
Yeah. And I think the biggest challenge was no money. It's not a kind of business that you walk into. It's funny because we all think we're going to go to real estate school, we're going to get our license, and then we're going to be out there and everybody's going to call us. And guess what? Nobody was calling. And I ran into this gentleman at Home Life, and I'm still grateful to him to this day. And he said to me, Peg, what the secret to this job is, you got to get people to call you. Your number has to be everywhere. So not knowing what the hell I was doing, I did that. I plastered my car, pretended my husband did it, because they were all laughing at me at the office because I had this very rusty old van and I had it plastered with everything. My name, what I do, say tacky for sale signs. And the reason I did that was because I didn't have to tell my neighbors or anybody else. It was great marketing, as long as you don't drive like an ass. It was great marketing. And it was, after the initial cost, it was free. But when I went to Home Life that day and parked it in the back they were all laughing at me. And I said, guys, it's not my fault. My husband gave it to me as a gift. So they would stop laughing at me. And that is 100% the truth. But that's how I started. And then remember, I told you guys that the broker said he would pay for the header of the paper, and that was substantial. So then I could buy. There were 3 other quarters to that page, and I could buy them at a discount because he was paying for the header. So we took out a second mortgage on our home. We had 3 little kids. My husband was the only one working, and we took out a second mortgage and we were all in. I mean, it was either, and I said to him, I said, this is either going to be the biggest mistake of our lives, but I promise you in a year, we'll know clearly, and then we'll move on. And my biggest thing with real estate is I knew it was unlimited money. You could make unlimited money as long as you worked really hard. And I had the work ethic to back up my mouth. I just, and I would find money to invest in myself. But, so that's where it came from. It just, I saw that people could make unlimited amounts of money. I had elderly parents that lived with me to this day. And it was the kind of thing where I had huge responsibilities. 3 kids, 2 older parents, everybody looking at me like, did you sell a house today? No. But I didn't have a plan B. And I think sometimes we get in our heads about, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll just do this. Or it's kind of slow, I'll drive Uber. Well, it's kind of not working, I'll deliver pizza. But the instant gratification of getting a little bit of cash isn't worth your mind taken away from what the prize is. And make no mistake about it, real estate is the prize. This is a business where we're kind of a little bit secretive because we don't want more people to find out about it, because nobody can make this kind of money. I make more money than a brain surgeon. And believe me when I tell you, I did not go to brain surgery school. So that doesn't even make any sense. What I did know from an early age is how to run a business, because my family always had restaurants and my parents were non-English speaking. So here I am at the age of 6 trying to explain to them what this lease meant and what this mail meant and it worked out for me because I could skip as much school as I wanted because they didn't know what the teachers were actually saying. So it was good in that respect, but that is where I learned business, and it was behind the counter of a restaurant. So then I get into real estate.
That's interesting. Like going back to sort of the initial part of what you were saying there, you were all in is the bottom line, right? I'm curious, you talk about there are a lot of people that consider these side hustles, what we call them now. And, maybe they haven't done a deal in a couple of months. They say, oh, whether it's Uber or whatever, right? Or they're trying Pilates or something, right? That's to each their own. But, you were all in from the beginning, second mortgage on the home, that sort of thing.
I had
Did you have at your time, did you have doubts about where this was going, or were you supremely confident? Was there somewhere in the middle there? What were your thoughts on that?
On a confidence meter, I was somewhere below 40 because every time, occasionally I'd get a listing from a past friend or something. You get that listing and you market it, and then all of a sudden you're busy because you have this listing, and then the frickin' thing sells. And then I would go home and cry to my husband. I'm out of business. I have no more listings. It's over. And he, poor man. I remember my daughter talking to me and she kept saying to me, Mom, there's not a real estate gene. There's nothing you're missing. You're good at this. Just believe in yourself. And the last thing I believed in was myself, especially because we all come from different backgrounds. At least some people, they've had parents as realtors, or they understood this crazy industry. I came into it not knowing a freaking thing. So you tell me, how much confidence did I have going into this? I was scared, and that is not a lie. I cried myself to sleep many, many nights, especially once those stupid listings would sell and I'd have nothing. I'd always say I'm out of business. And that anxiety never goes away, just so you guys know. We can do 1,000 deals a year, and yet that anxiety come January 1st comes right back again. It's like 10 pounds of cement on your chest, because it's like, great, you did great last year. What are you going to do this year? And it's always, what are you going to do this year? What are you going to do next year? Like, what are you going to do? So that's what it feels like. That's the reality. But the rewards are so ridiculous that you can't You can't get these types of rewards anywhere else. Even my own realtors, like occasionally, and I get it. They have 3 kids at home. They haven't seen a check in a couple of months. And it's like, just work harder, man. This is where the gold is. Like, this is where the money is. There's nobody else that's going to pay a grade 10 dropout this kind of money. They're going to pay you in real estate. That's it. So that's why I'm so passionate. And that's why it's so important to me to pay it forward. And this is really what all this is about. This is not, I will answer any question you guys have. I have 100% transparency. I'm here to help you. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, if you think I didn't explain something, I'm happy to help you. Just believe me when I tell you, I am so grateful to be a realtor. I am so grateful. And this is my way of paying it forward because my children all have educations, something I did not. I've probably buried more relatives than I want to tell you because they couldn't even afford to bury themselves. So I have basically come into an industry that's changed the dynamic of my family, that their trajectory forever. Like, how can you not be passionate about a business that's given you that? Like, how can you not? Like, my grandchildren will not suffer. They maybe for other reasons, but not for money. My grandchildren will all go to university. My great grandchildren will all go to university. And that's all because of real estate. And that is from the bottom of my heart why I'm here today.
That's amazing. And I think it's important to kind of reiterate all these things that you've been able to accomplish. I mean, when you got started, those doubts were very prevalent, right? And what did you do? You put in the work. And I know that might be simplistic, and we'll get into some more details, but it's not like you came into this just like, I got this, no problem. And then all of a sudden you were
I had nothing. In fact, my children had a paper route at the time and they wanted to quit and I wouldn't let them. So when it was raining, guess who was out throwing papers? The same paper that I was advertising in, the same paper that had a full page ad from me, I was throwing it at my neighbor's door. So that's the kind of grit that I'm talking about. There is nothing I won't do to succeed in this business, nor to service my clients.
You talk about from a marketing standpoint, obviously, you were doing all these different things that, I mean, at a time, marketing has changed with real estate, but some of the core values of marketing are still tried, tested, and true. But to put it in perspective, regardless of what you're doing with your marketing, I mean, being all in with that marketing was very important for you. Is that right?
Well, this is how I looked at it. So you get into a new business, right? In a new industry. And so I went on a couple of appointments and it was fun. I got to not smell like French fries day after day. It was 12 o'clock. I didn't have to work the lunch counter. Wow. But I sat in front of people and we had conversations, and then they'd either give me their listing or they wouldn't, and their listing would sell. And I would get these big fat checks. And I would be thinking to myself, I didn't earn this. Like, what the hell is going on? What is my value in this business? I had no idea what value I brought. So that's when the marketing came in, because I knew from the time I had the restaurant how important marketing is. I'll tell you a little quick story. So when I worked at the restaurant, it was in the Kozlov Center, and Rock 95 was 3 floors up. And one of the guys' wives was opening a fish and chip store. First venture for her, didn't know what the hell she was doing. Here I am, a 10-year business, and we're struggling to survive, and we're selling like real food. This woman gets in and opens her fish and chip store, and she's got lineups around the corner. And guess why she had lineups around the corner? Because her husband had access to unlimited advertising. So it would be on the radio night and day. And that's why this lady had lineups around the corner. And that's the biggest lesson I learned, was that if you don't advertise, you're dead. That's it. This isn't a free game. Like, I know a lot of people say, well, I can't afford this and I can't afford that. Well, then get out. Like, the people aren't hiring us. We have to be of some value. And the way I found value in myself was to give back to people. And the only way I could give back is by marketing their listings. So I would try everything: radio, signs, TV, you name it, I would do it. I just wanted exposure for my clients' listings. And guess what happened? All the exposure brought them offers, and all the offers brought them sales. And then came more listings, and then came more listings, because I was proving myself. I was proving what I could do but not because I knew what I was doing, because I had seen what had worked in the past. And it was something I felt comfortable with. I felt comfortable taking a commission check because I knew I had represented that client well.
That's really interesting. And taking so much stock and importance on marketing and advertising. One of my questions, it's a little bit general, but it's, what point did you realize that your business was starting to take off? So I'll refine that a little bit. Was the marketing that you were doing, was that a part of your business taking off, or was your business taking off a part of when you were doing the marketing? Like, where did that sort of come into play?
I would say it was kind of 50-50. I was working hard. And this is a business when you work hard, and sometimes people don't understand what working hard means. So like going to the office for, I don't know, 6 hours and chatting with your friends, see what's going on. That is not working hard to me. I work 7 days a week. And people often ask, like, what's your work-life balance? Well, you know what? You don't get to have one. You don't get one. That's not what this industry is, but it will pay you in dividends. It will pay you for your sacrifices. So that's why I say to you, like, I never once asked, I'm here in Canmore with a couple of friends, and she's like, do you remember back in the day when you had 2 phones and during dinner, or we try to play a game of euchre, and of course, Peg's losing because she can't pay attention long enough because her phone's buzzing. But there is no work-life balance. I'm sorry. And I struggled with this. Don't get me wrong. I struggled. I had young children. So here you are in a struggle. You have young children, and you know how important it is to give them money and a security. And then you have this job that you know is going to get them there, but the sacrifice is your time. So I did sacrifice my time. I did work. I did work 120 hours a week. I did. I'm not going to lie. I worked all the hours. And still to this day, I go to the office on the daily. And if the garbage is full, I will take it out. And if the agents have a question, I will answer it. If they want to role play with me because they need to speak to a client, I'm there. I'm not out of touch. In fact, I am the most in touch person with this market, and I have not sold a damn house in 5 years. But I can promise you, I know what's going on. All of it.
You beat me to one of my fun questions, which was going to be like, how many houses did you sell yourself this year? Which, yeah, there you go. I love that.
But in all fairness, you can't name your brokerage Peggy Hill and then expect to go up in competition with your own agents. Like, how fair is that? That's not fair. Like, yeah, would I win? Yeah, because that's not fair.
No, that's interesting. I think, and that kind of leads to like one word that I think is really important in this business, and one thing that I think you can attest to. And what comes to mind when you hear the word consistency?
Consistency means always. So I worked 4 open houses every weekend, at least a minimum of 5 years. I'd be, if I said 10, I wouldn't be probably lying. But I never took my foot off the gas. It was always, and I worked open houses because they were free. There was no other reason. And a little bit because of the restaurant. So you know how you go to a restaurant, you walk up to somebody's counter and they give you something and you give them something back. Well, at an open house, I didn't feel like I was knocking on their door and bugging them or calling them when they were having dinner. At an open house, they came to me. And I was very comfortable with that. That was part of what I've done all my life. So because I was so comfortable with that whole thing, it only made sense for me to do open houses. And that's what I did. And so when I tell the story, and I know what people are going to say, open houses were better back in the day. No, they weren't. You had the equal amounts of jerks that came in. But guess what happened when you're in a town like Barrie and you're open housing the crap out of everything and you are there every weekend? People don't read signs. They think they're all my listings. They thought I was the biggest slinger in town. Look at all the listings. Like, they would actually come in there and say, wow, another one of yours. Wow. And it's like, yeah, whatever you want to believe. So
for sure. I was the first male agent on an all-female team. The sign said the Wright sisters when I was doing an open house. I don't think anyone thought I was a Wright sister, but I was still doing all the open houses, right?
Matter.
So it just goes to show.
Matter. It doesn't matter. People don't read signs. They don't read. They don't care.
No, for sure.
They're for themselves. And if you can be of assistance to them while they're there for themselves, then you're laughing.
So there's a lot of people in this conversation right now that are individual agents that have seen some success and are starting to consider or are already considering starting a team, or have maybe started the process and maybe they're not seeing the results, or maybe their first agent that's joined their team isn't seeing the results. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that they're not seeing success? And kind of a two-parter, when do you think somebody should be starting a team? Because I see a lot of people, personally, I'm seeing people do it before they think that they need to.
So my answer to that is this. I don't really understand when people start teams. So I've heard people say, I'm getting my real estate license, I'm going to start a team. And it's like, why would I join you? I don't even know who you are. So a lot of times it comes from an ego. A lot of times it comes from some great business plan they've made. But the actual truth is, I think my way worked because it did work because I'm sitting on the mountain. But the reason it worked was that I've never asked anyone to join my team to this day. I never, ever ask anybody to join my team. People come to us and say, I want to join this team. But the big secret that people forget is that when agents join a team, they come there for one reason, and that's to be fed. They don't come there because you're a nice person. I'm a really nice person. They don't come there because you have fancy advertising. I have great advertising. But people come to me because I will feed them. And when you feed agents, they stay. I have agents on my team that have been there over 10 years. But we work as a team. And as a team, we open house. As a team, we bring in listings. And because we have all that inventory, we're able to grow the business. I found, and it's so funny because in 2021, we were the number one team in Canada, number one in the world, or number two in the world for Remax, which is a joke because my price point shouldn't, I'm dealing with people in California, Honolulu. I should never have been there, but I was there. And it's because it was really busy. And a lot of people can remember in 2021, and I knew what we had coming. I could see what was there. And I just kept pushing them harder and harder. There'll be time for rest next year. I swear to you, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. And so you need to really understand this market, but we work collectively as a group. We really do. And when you hire and fire, you need to do it on your own personality as well. Not everybody's going to love you, and not everybody needs to be your best friend, but they have to have what's really important to you. And I have two things that are very important to me that never, ever we don't hire to. And it's not the disc, although I do like it. What we hire to is grit and authenticity. If you can't put my client's needs ahead of your own, if you can't get out of your own way to service a client, you will not work here. And if you do, you won't last here. And if somehow you got yourself through the interview process, but you got to have grit, man. This business is not for the faint of heart. And if you're not getting to where you need to be right now, and if you think you're going to start a team because you're a really good marketer or you have really good graphics, or nobody cares about stuff like that. What agents care about is getting fed and feeding their families. And how can you blame somebody? Why would they follow? Do you think they follow me because I'm a great person? Yeah, I am, but that's not why they stay. Do you think they stay because we help the community so much? They like that. That's not why they stay. They stay because I feed them, and they stay because together we're better. We're better together, and I prove that to them on the daily. That's why they stay.
And to that point, when it comes to your most successful team agents,
Yep.
They're not just sitting there waiting for you to feed them, right? That's a reason to join a team. That can be a reason to join a team. Why are people staying, right? From their side of things, from your experience.
Because once you join the team, and you see what we're doing here, right? And you see what's going on. And then, all of a sudden you have lots of past clients, and we nurture those for them. There's systems in place. But why, as a single agent, would I want to do all the minutia that it requires to be successful? We probably have, I'm trying to think how many. So we have at least 5 client events a year. As a single realtor, where the hell are you getting the money to do all that? That's the thing. Collectively, as a group, we can do more together. And my top agents could absolutely leave me tomorrow. Why wouldn't they? They have a great database. We've built a great database, but they still believe in what we're doing. And they still believe that together we're able to do more together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's some agents that are here, in this session that are considering joining teams. There's some that are actually on teams right now. Maybe they're not seeing the success that they might like to see, and maybe they're questioning being on a team. Every team's different, but I think the reality is if you're just going to a team to sit there and wait until you're spoon fed,
No.
reality is, you're going to flounder, whether it's from team to team or you're just going to be a low producing agent. And I think,
No.
understanding that grind still has to be there, whether you're on a team
100%.
or whether you're.
And my agents open house all the time. Like they have to. Like we still have to grind. Do we have call nights? 100%.
Yeah.
But we also give back a lot of ourselves. And a lot of my agents will come. Like we feed the Busby Center on Mondays, once a month, the first Monday. And I have no problems getting people to help me do that. They want to be there. Like we are on a cause. Like the first day of school, we go to Tim Hortons and we give out $500 in gift cards, like $5 increments. And just because I know that that's a tough day for some people, they couldn't get to see their kids off to school. They have to get to work. So we do that. I have no problem getting my agents to help me do that. Like we are such a big contributor to our community at this point that does it make it easier for us to sell? Yes. Do people call in for us? Yes. Do they already have a perception of who we are? Yes. And that helps. That helps.
But you put yourself out there.
You have to. And the thing is, I never started that way because I was trying to put myself out there. I hate January because I hate the cold. So Blue Monday was always a day that we'd go out to Tim Hortons, and it's evolved through the years. But initially I would just buy a $500 gift card, and everybody coming through, when it ran out, it ran out. I never asked them to say who it was from. And then the first day of school, when my kids finally finished school, I was sad. So I wanted to make other people happy. So we would do the same thing, $500 gift card. And when it runs out, it runs out. But like stupid little things like that mean a lot to the consumer. This year, when the girls were out there, I couldn't make it because I wanted to watch my own grandchildren go to school selfishly. So when the girls were out there, one of them came to me after and she said, this guy pulled up. And of course, people don't know why you're there or what you're handing them. And he said to her, what's this? And she's like, oh, it's a gift card for your coffee. And he's like, from who? And she said, from the Peggy Hill team. And he's like, of course. So when you have somebody who reacts that way to a gift card, of course, who else? Of course, that's who we want to be known for. We want to be known for the people that give back to our community. And I realize in a lot of respects, I'm a little bit fortunate because Barrie is a tighter community and our population is in Toronto. But to me, farming an area isn't just about knocking on that area's door. It's about actually servicing that area. So if you're in Toronto and you want to do what I do on the scope of Barrie, then you have to find your micro market and you have to find those people and you have to give them value. You have to give them gifts because people want to reciprocate. So believe it or not, like a stupid little $5 anything will go a long way. But
I think it's really great. You took the words out of my mouth, micro market. I mean, when you start talking about Barrie, it's like, yeah, you know what though? Toronto is not one giant city. It's an amalgamation of all these different neighborhoods, and some really successful agents have taken advantage of that. I mean, in the East End, like the Beach, Leslieville, Riverdale, like these are their own communities, Cabbagetown, Junction, all these, you can go all around the city and, there's a bunch of little mini Barries all throughout Toronto, right? So you can certainly work at scale to the similar approach that you've taken. Speaking of scale, your team's grown. How have you kept your client experience consistent and memorable at the scale that you've made your team?
So, I mean, especially with 60 realtors out there, right? Like you've got 60. I'll drive by a street and I'm like, we have a listing here. I know, but so you just have to kind of interject yourself in the process, right? So when they're first listed, a video will go out by me that says, welcome to our team. Thank you for listing with us, genuine, and it goes out. So through the process, especially listing clients right now, our sellers are really, really having a hard time, like a really hard time. Because no matter what, it's not our houses on the market, it's theirs. And they take it very personal that nobody is buying their home. they take it very personally that I just told them to drop their price, and then we got crickets. So every single week I send a video out to my seller clients and I explain the market. I explain what trends have been good this week. I explain why the bond market is so important and why the next Bank of Canada meeting, if he drops, he drops. It's not really going to affect the 5-year fixed rate. So we're not really concerned about that. The fact that, that the American bond rates are falling, which in turn helps ours fall, is going to help us in the week to come. I tell them about showings. I know Dave does this with his group, and I do that with my agents, but then I go mini market again and I do it with the clients, because initially I started doing it because I just wanted the heat off my agents' backs, because there's nothing worse than taking on a listing and having that client call you in day after day, like nothing. And then they get aggressive and they get angry. So I thought I could take some of that from my agents and send out a video. It's like 3 minutes. Half the time I tell them, hey, this is still the same, but at least they know I'm here. At least they know I'm not vacationing and they're on an island all by themselves. At least they know I know how many showings have happened. At least they know I'm there. So that is another way. All the gifts always come from our team. So and then they get invited to things all the time where I will always be present, and that's how we do it. But make no mistake, the connection is between the agent and the client. You have to really interject yourself to have it go any further. But
Finding that balance is important, right? I mean, you want the client to be able to trust the agent that they're working with, that the one that is their first direct line. But your name is on the.
And when shit goes wrong, they only know my name. When shit goes right, great to name. They know about that. But we go further than that. So my sister works for me now. We lost my dad a few years ago, so I made her come up here and help me raise my mother. It's just another story all on its own. So my sister works with me, and she's our client care person. She came from retail, and she always ran big teams, so she understands the methodology. But she will call the clients, like once they're listed. She will, if one of the pictures is off center, or they didn't like it, or they want more work done on it, she will make sure that happens. And right now, clients are over exaggerating every little problem. I didn't see my house on Instagram this week. That's why it's not selling. You better get it on Instagram. Lulu's going to be that girl that says, hey, this person wants it on Instagram again. Get it on there, right? So we try to stay in contact. And Lulu's also going to be the one that says, if you're not happy, we have other realtors. Because initially you don't know the love connection because you don't know the client. But after a while, it becomes pretty obvious if a client and an agent are bonding, right? So we offer them another agent. I know Mark Ferris does the same thing. I know that he will also do the same thing and just say, hey, if this isn't working out, let's go with somebody else.
Right.
So again, it's always about the client. Eccentric. You have to be eccentric about your clients. And that's all that matters is your clients.
That's a great line. I like that. First of all, Dave, I just want to, I'm not going to open it up just yet, but if people have their own questions, start throwing them in now, and then we'll very soon we'll start throwing it out to everybody else here to ask some questions.
Please,
now,
anything you want. Again, I'm an open book. There's no secret. There's no secret sauce.
Can you share with me a failure or a tough moment that ended up being a really important learning experience in your real estate career?
I think, okay. You want to hear this funny story?
I certainly do.
So embarrassing. I went to see this elderly lady. She was probably in her 80s. So, big shot Peggy Hill goes over and sees this senior, and she had a nice place. However, I didn't do my presentation because, I'm kind of a big deal. I didn't really want to go in this presentation, but she insisted that I went. And so once I got there, of course I had to have it because I don't like losing either, right? So anyway, we made this great connection. I said to her, I'm going to call the city tomorrow. I'm going to see if this is actually legalized because she had a 2-unit home. And so anyway, I called her the next day and she said, oh dear, yes, it was so nice to meet you. But yeah, another young man came. And he's going to put my house on the Facebook. And I said, well, I'm going to put your house on Facebook. you didn't say that. And this young man said he's going to advertise my house a lot. And I said, well, I'm going to advertise your house a lot. And she's like, you didn't say that, in her calm. And just so I lost that listing because I decided that the 80-year-old did not need my listing presentation. Because why? I don't know.
Because you're too big a deal to bring in a listing.
I didn't feel like doing it. Like, tell me, when you go on 3 minimum CMAs a day, by the time you get to your 4th or your 5th, do you really give it? You really don't. And that's when I started the team, when I couldn't handle the volume. And I want to tell everyone out there that's listening, if you don't have enough business for yourself, do not start a team. You need the business. You need the foundation. The foundation looks like, I don't want to answer my phone anymore. I can't take another call. I can't go on another CMA. I'm eating soup in my car. Like that's the foundation. That's rock solid. Like you have to have so much business, and the first thing you do is not hire a buyer's agent because you do not want to give away your commissions. The first thing you do is hire 2 admins. Once you finish with your admins, and then you can start sharing commission with a buyer's agent. When I first started not going on CMAs, Terry, my partner in crime now, she was the one that started taking the listings, because the listings are the very last thing you give away. You do not give away your listings. So she actually went with me for 365 days to all those CMAs, and she said nothing. All she did was listen to how I spoke to the client, and then we replicated. And then she replicated that with the next person. So that's what you need to do. But if you don't have the business for yourself, what are you selling? You're selling nothing. You don't have a business, but you need that business. So even if you're on a team and you know, you don't see somebody who's as dedicated to you like I am to my realtors, you're on the wrong team. That's it. A leader needs to be there no matter what. A leader needs to, you know, head on these problems. Do I now hear all the, I don't know, pissed off clients? Probably not. They like to shield me from that stuff. But never forget, it's my problem if the leads are down. It's my problem. My marketing genie, Charlotte, will say that it's her problem. It's actually collectively our problem. So I make it rain on my team. That's what I've always done. That's who I am. That's what my position is. I'm the rainmaker, and I never forget it for 1 minute.
When we first had our initial call on this session, you had been in the office all weekend because your office manager was away, right? So you were in there grinding. So, I mean, I think that shows starting a team is not an excuse for you to do less work. It's pivoting how your business is being run.
And it's hard. And it's hard. Like I have a company that I pay, I don't know, like $800 a month. It's a payroll company, but my payroll is now large and I need to have the right contracts. I need to say the right things. I'm responsible to employees. Like we probably have 20 plus employees. Like we have 20 plus. You think I ever knew what an employee contract looked like? I had no idea. But these are the hiccups you're going to run along a long ways. And realtors, you have to remember that they're very passionate, but in the same breath, we're not exactly easygoing people. Like we're very intense. So I gave up my listing clients to get 60 crazies that on the daily have a problem for something. My wife's mad. My mom's in the hospital. This is happening. Like, that's all our problem now. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Again, thank you so much, Dave. Thanks for helping out, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right. Bye now.